I love myself a good deal. I also like PCs. So what better way than to get a great deal than to buy used PC parts? Today, we're going to talk about this bad boy. His name is Craig, and we're going to find out if this was actually a good deal or not. So, this is my personal PC, Craig. I've had this thing for over a year now. It's been upgraded, modified, it's gone through a lot of things, and I think I've gotten some good deals on parts inside of him. But today, I'm gonna actually try and figure out if this was actually just a big waste of money, or if I'm actually right in thinking that this was a good waste of money. I don't know what that means, but let's talk about the parts that are inside this thing, because I'm actually just kind of really proud of this thing. So as we take off the side panel, let's talk about some of the components that I've had in Craig since I originally got him. Inside here, we have a Core i5 2500K. That is a Sandy Bridge processor, and if you don't know anything about this CPU, it is, at least back in its day, it was the best price to performance CPU money could buy. Games weren't using more than 2 threads on average. Sometimes it would go up to 4, but the 2500K not only ran these games really well at a really good price, you could also overclock this thing really easily. Getting something like a P67 board that was really common at the time, you could overclock this board to 4.5 gigahertz with a Hyper 212 Evo, which is also why that cooler is one of the most spoken about things. Leave a comment down below if you've ever used the 2500K or know anybody or just know anything about this CPU and how great it was back in the day. To cool that 2500K, we replaced the stock Intel heatsink, which is trash, and I don't know why it was brought along with this system, but I got a Craigslist H7. This is a great cooler. It's better than the Hyper 212 Evo that was popular at the time of this chip's launch. It cools a little bit better, and I honestly recommend it because you can find it for just a little bit more than Hyper 212. It works fine on this chip. It's a great budget cooler, and if you need a cooler, I definitely could not recommend this more. Housing that awesome chip is the Asus P8Z68-V Pro motherboard. Now, along with that, if you haven't been able to tell, there are 2 different RAM kits in there, and oh boy, the first RAM kit is a 2x4 kit of Corsair XMS3. It's just basically standard DDR3, 1333 megahertz, castle latency 9. There's not a lot special with this RAM, and I thought I killed one stick one day. Because of that, I went ahead and ordered some new RAM, and that was a mistake. As it turns out, the RAM stick wasn't dead. I just seeded it wrong or something, I guess, when I originally bought the system and started messing with some stuff. I don't know what I was doing at the time in order to think I killed it, but it wasn't dead. But I got new RAM anyways, and that is the Mushkin Stealth. It is a 2133 megahertz 2x4 kit of RAM, and that cost me like $70 when I got it. That one kind of hurt my wallet, but doesn't matter. I had faster RAM at the time, so I just threw that stuff in instead of the Corsair stuff, because why not? The RAM was faster. It definitely helped in some games, and then I realized I haven't sold this old kit yet. Let's get 16 gigabytes of RAM. And for somebody who does video editing and stuff like that, that definitely helps out a lot, especially needed when you only have a 4-core CPU. So along with all those parts, the storage is also some of the original parts. There's a random 500 gigabyte Western Digital drive. I believe it's only SATA 2, so it's not fast. I don't even know what speed it is. I haven't tried to look too much into it. It's just a random 500 gigabyte drive. And there is also a OCZ Agility 3 120 gigabyte SSD. That was the boot drive, and well, I'm glad I had it at the time. It was running Windows 7. Now, I know there's a lot of you that will praise Windows 7, but let me tell you, I absolutely hate it. Now, I'm not saying that because I'm trying to be cool or edgy. I'm saying that because because Windows 7 is just really bloated nowadays. God, I can't get the side panel off. Windows 7 in the modern day has a lot of updates. Because of that, if you're going to be using a 120GB SSD as your boot drive, expect to have nothing more on there than Windows, Chrome, and maybe 3 or 4 light programs. Don't get a 128 or 120 or whatever. 240 is the minimum SSD for Windows 10. And that's also one of the reasons why there's another SSD in the system. Excuse the poor cable management, but this ADATA SSD is 240GB, and let me tell you, that is the best decision I made with this system. Not only was I running low on storage, but I don't know, I don't trust this SSD all too much. Older SSDs have a higher failure rate, and I don't know too much about this SSD, so it's relegated to just a couple games that I'm not too worried about losing. But with this 240GB drive, I can put Windows 10, I can have all my Adobe suite on there, I can have a couple of programs, and I could probably fit a game or two on here if I was so inclined. Alongside the 500GB drive in the system, which I believe is this one because it's all kinds of dusty and I wasn't able to clean it fully, is a 2TB drive from Toshiba, 7200 RPM. You know, standard fare. I just needed more storage. And down here's another drive, but I don't have it plugged in. It's like 160GB. I don't remember why I got it exactly. Oh yeah, forgot to mention the wireless card in here because I personally am not always connected to an Ethernet cable, so I have to have wireless. There was like a PCI, not a PCIe, PCI card in here. It was wireless G. It was trash. I looked up the model number so I can install drivers one day, and it wasn't originally released in America, and that got me really confused. So I have no idea where the guy bought it, that I bought the original system from. The card died on me one day, and I'm completely fine with that because I have a wireless AC card in here. I don't remember the exact model number. I'll have it somewhere on screen, but it's just a random gigabyte AC card. It cost me somewhere between $20 and $40. It was no big deal to me because I absolutely needed this thing, and I just wanted something that'd be usable for the long term. Now I've talked about all the components that I might have replaced or that might catch your eye and you'll be like, why would you need that? Let's talk about some of the things that you might not notice if I weren't to tell you about this original system. First off, the chassis. This is a nice chassis. This is the bequiet Pure Base 600. This is a great chassis. It's the quietest on the market, at least from what I've seen. My god, this is just really quiet. I've never expected to have a PC this quiet. Other cases that I've had, I could hear the fans, like the GPU, the CPU fan, all that. It's really hard to hear the system unless I'm pushing it to the absolute limit, even when I have the top vent open. Did I forget to mention that I also got this case for free? But this wasn't the original case. The original case was an Antec case. I believe it was like the Antec 300 series or something like that. I don't know, but I'll have B-roll the case, and I just don't like that case. Why did it exist in the modern day? Why did I buy that PC knowing what the case looked like? But the case is just not modern case design, and what I mean by that is that the hard drive cage was just in the way. I had trouble putting in a larger GPU when I upgraded the original GPUs that were in this system, which we'll get to later, and I just hated the cable management. There was a lot of things I hated about that case. It looked kind of alright. The dude put stickers on it, and that was just tacky. I hate stickers on cases, but besides that, I just don't recommend anybody buy a case like that in the modern day when there are just so many good options even in the budget area. Oh, I really wanted to get rid of that case badly, so I got the Rosewill Gunganier. I don't know how to pronounce this case, but all I'm telling you is that you should not buy that case. It looks like a modern case. It looks alright, but it's trash. It retails for like $60 on Newegg. The version I had was the version 1 of the case. They have a slightly newer revision of the case, but just don't buy it. The airflow is not the greatest. It has not so great cable management. It was kind of just one of those cases that I needed because I hated the other case. It was better than the Antec case, but it was still a pain in the ass. So that's where we get to this system. And while this system is almost perfect for my needs, there's a couple things that I wish could be different about it. The biggest thing is its cable management. While I'm alright with having an exposed power supply, there's no cover for that. Cable management kind of sucks, especially with these longer cables. I think if you were going to build in this case, you need an MATX motherboard, just because there's a lot of cable routing holes that are blocked by ATX. Either that, or just try and eliminate the amount of cables that you have in your system. It might not be possible for everybody. Sometimes you might even need ATX if for some reason you're using a whole bunch of video cards or something, but in that case, I honestly think you should be choosing a better case than this. So along with the new cases, I had to get a new power supply, and this power supply is a beautiful thing, the EVGA SuperNova G3 750 watt. Now, for the overall power consumption of the system, this power supply is absolutely overkill. I don't think this power supply is running at too high of a load, and it's not running at too low of a load that this didn't make any sense. This power supply is fully modular, it's 80 plus gold, which means it has great efficiency, and again, it has nice cables, but my problem with the cables is just something that most people won't have to deal with, but it's something that I have trouble with in the cases that I work in. Well, the cables are just basically kind of wound up in this like random sleeving that you see in a lot of power supplies nowadays. They also have built-in capacitors, which means that the cables are thicker than they need to be, and there's absolutely no reason for them to be in there. If you get any third-party cables through something like CableMod or any other things, or you make your own cables, you don't need these capacitors. They do absolutely nothing to help the components in the system. Well, it's not worth it to me to just replace all the cables and either sleeve it myself or something, or get any third-party cables. I think some people might do that with this power supply if they have the money, but I'm trying to get a good deal here, eh? And then last but not least, the piece de resistance of this system, the thing that I love the most, is the GTX 1080 FTW by EVGA. This is a story in and of itself. So, the GTX 1080 that is in here is something special to me. First of all, this wasn't the original GPU. You might have seen the original GPUs if you have seen Cooler PC Project Part 2, which if you haven't, you can click right up here. But if not, that's okay. The TLDR is that two 8800 GTXs were originally installed in Craig. But those are really bad cards in the modern era. Even if you try and pull some black magic tomfoolery overclocking, you still can't play DX11 games. So I wanted to upgrade. My original plan was to spend about $200 on a video card, but lo and behold, my friend was selling a 980 Ti. Not just any 980 Ti though, a 980 Ti classified. These were some of the best performing 980 Ti's that EVGA put out, and so I made it my plan to try and get it. The friend was originally selling the card for around $350, I believe, and I said, no, stop that. These cards were going for about $300 online, plus or minus shipping depending on where you looked, and I just didn't want to pay any more than that. So I went out of my way, took a couple days of convincing, but he finally gave in and let me buy the card for $300 off of him. But unfortunately, the card didn't like to play nice with the TVs that I was using at the time. I didn't have monitors. So using a small driver modification that I found online, I was able to get the colors displaying correctly on my TV. This, however, broke once I moved the system from Windows 7 when I originally got the card to Windows 10. The colors were still all broken, the driver was having problems, and I just couldn't fix it because NVIDIA locked down the drivers in Windows 10, or Microsoft, I don't know. So I went to EVGA support, tried to get all the help that I could, tried to see what I could do about the situation, and in the end, they made the card for me. Once the card was made, it was only $17 in shipping, or $16, I can't remember, to get it sent off to EVGA. And in return, they gave me a 1080 FTW. This is a great card, this is absolutely massive, and I can't believe that they matched my original MSRP. So what I got was basically $200 off this card, and I'm absolutely grateful for it. The card is bottlenecked by the 2500K that's in here though, so that's a disappointment, but that's mostly my fault. I also have a DVD drive in this system. It doesn't do much. Sometimes I rip my PlayStation 1 games and use them in emulators, but that's really rare. You don't care about DVD drives, do you? Leave a like if you care about DVD drives. I'm really curious to see what people actually think about them nowadays. Overall, I'm really happy with this system, but I think I might have overpaid for it originally. You know, when I originally got the system, it was $460. It was about $400 for just the plain system that I originally got with all those parts, some of them that I just absolutely don't care about anymore. And then we have the keyboard, which is somewhere you might see it in my videos occasionally. But yeah, absolutely Love this system. The only thing that's really holding it back right now, I think, is the CPU. That 2500K, it works decent enough in games, but I definitely think for anybody who's buying something new in the price that all of this is added up to, you could do so much better. But that's all for today. I think I've talked about this PC enough. I think you guys have learned enough, and I'm actually gonna compare this to a newer system, and if you try and recreate this system with used parts, or even just getting better used parts in general. So stick around for that. That'll probably be within the next 2 or 3 videos. So that's it for this. If you guys want to check out any more of my content, hit that subscribe button. There'll be more to come. Check out one of the videos on the side. One will be one I recommend to you. One will be one YouTube recommends to you. Leave a like if you enjoyed the content. You know what to do if you didn't. And leave a comment down below if you think I was stupid for buying any of these parts. Check out all the links in the description to find my Twitter, Instagram, or anything else I do on the internet. My name is Gregandcin, and I gotta edit on this freaking laptop.